And on occasion, I'll run back and forth to make sure you're okay. All right? Anyway, thank you. Wonderful to have this 3 days with you as we discussed at the beginning. As you saw, my name is John Devis, and so I'm the course director for the next 3 days. And Bill, as you see up here in the agenda, opened things up for us. And obviously the purpose of the next 3 days is to spark or light a fire. It's not going to solve everything. It is designed to provoke and generate ideas, to get you to talk about this, to have conversations in which you begin to share ways that you can help JK move forward. And so today is all about being future ready. And Bill gave you, I think, a very broad look at what it means to be future ready. In a few minutes, I'm going to introduce Benita Bali, who will take us farther down the path. What does it mean as an organization, and what are examples of organizations that can do this? We want to create conversations with you throughout this. And then later today, Anja Puri will come back and talk to you, and I'll introduce her later. Day 2, tomorrow, we talk about reframing innovation. Reframing innovation in, as Bill mentioned, back from customer. And what it means. And in the course of reframing innovation, we have Cynthia Carroll who will be here. I'll introduce her tomorrow. We have Scott Rocker, professor at Cuba as well. And Vishal, who was sitting here earlier, he's taking Bill to the airport, but he'll be back. He'll be leading a session. Day 3, we focus on value creation and team performance. The two are actually very closely linked, as you can imagine. And in the morning, we've got Eric Nair of Sign Garden, another one. And in the afternoon, I will lead a session on organizational connectivity. So some of the questions about how we collaborate that came out of the questions you raised this morning, we are going to address on day 3 in the afternoon. But before we get to all that, and before I introduce Benita, let's talk about being future ready. And I have a simple question for all of you. By a show of hands, how many of you believe you are open-minded? Wow. How many of you raised your hand because everybody else raised their hand? That's good, so you're open-minded. Next question. How many of you, by show of hands, are open to change? You're not sure? Well, I didn't mean to point you out already. Okay. All right, so everybody is open-minded, everybody is open to change. A very late hand in the back there, there's a sound delay. Hesitation. Third and final question. By a show of hands, how many of you fear failure? Fear failure. You have a fear of failure. Raise your hand. Thank you. Okay, not as many hands, but still a majority. That's very interesting. One of the things that Nvo has provided is a book by Carol Dweck called Mindsets. Bill talked this morning about mindsets. And mindsets are actually really important. This is not some abstraction that somebody else takes care of. This is owned by each of you individually. And the reason why I ask those questions is because of what Dweck's research reveals. There are 2 broad categories of mindsets. One is a fixed mindset, defined by the perception and belief that we have certain restrictions on our own capability and development. There's only so far any of us can individually progress before we top out. That's a fixed mindset. On the other end is a growth mindset. And a growth mindset suggests quite the opposite. That our journey and our improvement and our development is ongoing. We can continue to get better. It doesn't mean it's an easy path. I don't have a secret answer in my back pocket that I'll reveal at the end of day 3. But it does begin with the notion that all of us, any inhibitions, any restrictions, any barriers, any boundaries we perceive are just that, they're perceived. Even if it's codified internally. Which means you have license to question. That's a growth mindset. Now what's interesting about the questions, when I said, are you open-minded and are you open to change? And then I asked you, do you fear failure? Fear of failure, according to Dweck, is an example of a fixed mindset. Whereas being open-minded and open to change is an example of a growth mindset. And therein lies the contradiction. It doesn't mean fear of failure is bad, we're human. But it does mean that for our organizations to progress, our responsibility as leaders, is to resist the temptation to keep following the same patterns. Chairman mentioned it this morning. Whatever got us to this point will not get us to the point of success we want in the future. And that means all of you in this room are going to be the ones that will carry that success forward. It's up to you. And that means that open mindset question is something we're going to test and probe with you over the next 2 or 3 days. We want you to engage. We want you to have that open mind. We want you to hear things that might be provocative, that challenge you. It may not fit your worldview. That's okay. It goes back to Bill's point on diversity, collaboration, listening to other people, getting a sense of where things that feel uncomfortable, yet stimulate us to look at things differently, can be very powerful. So, as a room, a social agreement, a social contract, I'm not going to make you sign anything. Do I have your agreement that over the next 3 days, even if you have a fixed mindset, that you will be open to challenging things? Yes? Oh, I love it. Everybody's hands went up. Terrific. All right, thank you very much. Well, listen, let me talk about Bill we already had. Let me talk about the next speaker. Benita Bali, as you know from her profile, has an extraordinary background. Former CEO of Britannia, led significant operations as an MD and CEO as well across multiple continents and locations. Bill talked about that idea again of diversity of team. Well, here you have an individual who has a diversity of geographic experience working with different cultures. Whether it's Nigeria, Latin America, USA, South America, India, an amazing background where you can actually begin to synthesize these different points of view. She brings that here today. But it goes beyond that because Benita's background extends into deeply important social areas, as Bill alluded to earlier. GAIN, global awareness for improved nutrition. And the fact that she's one of 27 leaders selected by the UN to focus on health-related issues. That's the intersection of the business side with the social side. I also wanted to mention one other little nugget of information. I was talking to Benita, and I wanted to get another piece of information that's not in the bio. And she revealed something very interesting. She had pursued her PhD in business, but decided that wasn't the right course. She got very far. The reason is simple. She didn't want to study business. She wanted to do it. She wanted to do it. So please join me in welcoming Benita Bali, who's going to share her experiences and what she has learned. Benita?
I've spent my life as a photographer, traveled the world for National Geographic, and I ended up here on the island of Molokai. More time for reflection.
sort of the tone of that response. But it sometimes is easier. Oops, do you hear bells? I hear bells. That's okay. Just thought maybe I was losing my mind. So, the way to tell is whether or not the audience, the participants, the room, says a certain word a certain way. So I'm going to say, how are you? And you're going to say, awesome. Okay? But I got to hear how it sounds. So, good afternoon. How are you? Awesome. That was good. That was really good. That was, I'd give that, Vishal, what would you say? Was that like an 8 out of 10? 6 out of 10. He's a hard grader. He's a hard grader. Well, listen, this afternoon, I'm really delighted to welcome the next faculty member for you here today. If you think back about what we've gone through so far this morning, with Bill's comments about the importance of using purpose as a galvanizing focal point for how to create a collaborative discussion and team capability so that we can drive organizations forward, and then connect that to what Vanita talked about, which was the importance of using that structure, using those capabilities in service to creating value. Value around that idea of brand value. And brand, of course, is not that logo on a shirt. It's the larger organizational value attached to reputation, attached to what you do above and beyond making money. And so this afternoon, with our next faculty member, we're going to see the shift even more into questions about how this impacts what you do as entrepreneurs, for example, in organizations. I'm really delighted to introduce Dr. Manju Puri to you. She is on leave from the Fuqua School of Business at Duke because she is with the FDIC, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation in the United States, as director of the Center for Financial Research. And she does still spend a lot of time as well with Fuqua, and we're delighted to have her here today to share her perspective. Her experience transcends so many different areas of the discipline of finance and what people do with it and understand it, that I think it's important to recognize one key thing. I asked her what would be a unique insight above and beyond the tremendous accomplishments in terms of the publications, the journals on which she is an editor, the reputation she's garnered around the world for her path-breaking research. And she said, you know what's interesting? One of my very most interesting areas of research has been at the intersection of psychology and behavior and finance. One of the early pioneers in this field. Think about that, the intersection of those areas with finance. We don't often think in those ways. We often think in terms of silos, but she's connecting dots here. And so I think you're going to find this afternoon session as a way to continue to connect those dots. I'm really, really excited to be able to introduce Dr. Manju Puri to you for this afternoon. Please. How are you? Some, not all. It's that back part of the room. One more time. How are you? Awesome. Okay. All right. That's good. This, as you see, says reflection. The picture was taken this morning outside the hotel. Not true.
Can't be. There's a lot of snow there.
There's a lot of snow outside. That's right. But it is intended to be an anchor, a visual anchor about what reflection means. We often tell our kids, we tell our families, we tell ourselves that when something happens, sleep on it. Think about it. You don't have a moment to sleep on it right now, but you do have some time to reflect. But I'm going to ask you to do it slightly differently. At your tables, you will see Post-it notes. I'd like each of you to grab a Post-it note. Don't write anything on it yet. Everybody grab a Post-it note. It's on every table. And as soon as you have your Post-it note, hold it up so I can see it. All right, good, good. Now, grab a pen. Everybody have a pen and a Post-it note? Hold those up. Excellent. Now, please get out of your seats and come up here.
Very good.
Everybody come up here. Look at this. It's all getting, and you've heard a range of different points of view. For the next 2 minutes, stand here amongst yourselves and think about one key lesson you can take away. Oh, I know the temptation is you have 1,000 key lessons. Just want one that you think really hit you hard. Really powerful lesson. One. The second piece to that is, what are you going to do differently when you get back to work because of what this lesson taught you? Think about those two things. I'll give you 2 minutes. Just stand right here. Think about it. Don't talk to anybody else. I'll get you going on that in a moment. So just stand here and do that. Write the one key lesson and what you will do differently at work on your piece of paper, okay? Don't wander away. Come back. When you have finished, hold up your Post-it so I can see. Most of you are finished. Those of you who are still working, you have 30 seconds. Good. Okay, now, what I'd like you to do is I want you to take your ideas and I want you to go to somebody else that you have not spoken to today, that it was not at your table, and I want the two of you to share these with each other for 3 minutes. All right? Do it right here. Don't leave. Do it right here. I want the energy right here. So, but find somebody else that you haven't spoken to yet today. Share this with them.
Unknown or not stock today.
Not at your table.
I haven't talked to you.
That's fine. So just take another 30 seconds. If you haven't had a chance to share, please do. And if you're through, come on forward again. Come forward. Come toward me again. So now, what you've done is, it's a very simple exercise, but it's a purposeful exercise. Identify something that really struck you as important and how it's going to compel you to do something differently than you might otherwise do. And you committed it to a piece of paper, and you have shared it with somebody else, which gives you a bit of accountability. Now, these have a little stickiness on the back. The walls here are blank. Let's create an insights wall. These are insights. We'll do this for the rest of the 3 days. And I'd love it if you would take your sticky note and put it on the wall. It's not going to damage it.
On the wall or on the whiteboard?
It can be, it can be, I want to be clear, can we put it on the wall?
There might be damages. There might be
All right, you're right.
risk taken.
Let's put it on the whiteboards, you're right. I don't want to get you or me in trouble. I apologize. There's whiteboards around the room, so please put the Post-its on the whiteboards, distribute them. Don't bunch them all up onto one. We want to see color. You asked about color? Yeah. We want to see the vibrancy of your ideas distributed across the room. And with that, we are also through. But before we're done, make sure you stick it up there. Don't throw this on the floor. Don't put it in your pocket. I will be counting. And I will call your room at 2 a.m., okay? So please, just put those around. And then tonight, the event starts at 9, what time? 7:15. Great. So the event starts tonight at 7:15, and tomorrow morning we begin.
Outside, no?
Yeah. Go ahead and place your Post-it notes. Thank you very much for your attention today, and we'll see you tonight.
Thank you.
Good.
Hello. We will meet at